Most ideas don't arrive finished. Some don't arrive as ideas at all. They sit right in front of us, so familiar, so useful that we stop noticing what they're actually doing. This is one of those ideas. We like to think morality works like a compass, something inside us, something we consult when decisions are hard, something that points us towards good. That's the story. But if you stop listening to what people say about morality and start watching how morality actually functions, the story changes. Because in practice, morality doesn't behave like a compass, it behaves like a language. Languages aren't about truth, they're about coordination, belonging, and safety. A language lets you signal, I'm one of you. I know the rules. I share the values. I'm safe. Moral language does the same thing. We learn which phrases signal virtue, which beliefs signal alignment, what positions earn approval, and which moral dialects protect us from suspicion. And because moral language is cheap, because it costs almost nothing, it becomes the dominant form of morality in society. This is where the confusion starts. We like to believe that talking morally inspires moral action. But if you actually look at behavior, the evidence points the other way. Most of the time, moral language doesn't inspire action, it replaces it. When people speak morally, they feel moral, and that feeling matters more than we admit. The human brain doesn't track moral behavior very well, it tracks moral identity. Once you feel like a good person, the pressure to prove it drops. The requirement feels satisfied. So people don't stop caring about morality. They just satisfy it verbally. More words, less substance. This gets called virtue signaling, and the phrase gets abused. So let's be precise. The problem isn't talking about morality. Teaching matters, language matters, frameworks matter. The problem is substitution. Teaching gives you a framework and then demands action. Signaling gives you credit instead of action. Those aren't opposites, they're different prices for the same product. Here's the distinction that actually matters. What separates moral action from moral performance isn't intention, it's cost. Time, money, risk, reputation, opportunity, sacrifice, irreversibility. If a moral stance costs nothing to hold, nothing to express, and nothing to maintain, it doesn't exert pressure. It doesn't constrain behavior. It just decorates identity. And at a certain point, that decoration starts functioning like branding, not in the corporate sense, but in the personal one. We don't just have values anymore, we display them, not to sell products, but to sell ourselves to employers, to audiences, to communities, to algorithms. We learn which moral positions are safe, which ones travel well, which ones signal intelligence, compassion, and awareness. We become our own press secretaries, our own ad campaigns, and morality becomes the safest copy we can write. That's why moral language scales so well and why it becomes dangerous. The more fluent someone becomes in moral language, the easier it is to hide behind it. History isn't full of people who hated morality. It's full of people who mastered its vocabulary. Politics, religion, institutions, corporate branding. Again and again, moral fluency isn't virtue, it's camouflage. And here's the part people resist most. This doesn't require bad intentions. In fact, it works best with good ones because systems don't care what you mean, they care what's rewarded. And what we reward socially, publicly, algorithmically is language, not alignment. You can see this anytime morality itself gets questioned. Watch what happens. Do people defend their actions or do they defend their identity? I'm a moral person. I don't need to explain myself. I just want what's best for everybody. I aim for the greater good. Those aren't explanations, they're exemptions. The more abstract the moral language becomes, the harder it is to fail at it. Aiming for the global good sounds impressive until someone asks, what does that actually require you to do? And suddenly the language dissolves into fog because it was never meant to constrain behavior. It was meant to signal orientation. There's a darker twist here. Even rejecting moral language can become a moral performance. I'm not moral. I just do what works. I don't care what people think. I accept the consequences. Listen closely. Consistency, strength, indifference to approval, willingness to bear cost. Those are virtues too. They're just wearing darker clothes, different costume, same structure. Which leads to the real diagnosis. The problem isn't virtue signaling versus real morality. The problem is any moral posture that grants immunity instead of accountability. Whether it's moral fluency, moral abstraction, moral rejection, or moral exceptionism, the test is always the same. Does it invite scrutiny or does it shut it down? And this is where people feel clever. They say, I see through this. I'm not like that. I don't do moral performance. That feeling is a trap. Rejecting moral performance doesn't earn moral credit. It just removes one way of faking it. There is no safe identity here, no moral high ground, no exemption. So, what is morality then, if it's not a language? Morality is what still happens when no one is watching, when no credit is given, when silence would be easier, and when the cost is real. That's not poetry, that's a test. This isn't a call to speak less about morality, it's a warning about mistaking speech for substance. Because when moral language becomes cheap, it doesn't disappear, it inflates. So when moral performance becomes loud, repetitive, constant, when virtue needs to be announced, clarified, defended, and reaffirmed, ask yourself, has language replaced movement? No answer required. Just sit with it. That discomfort is what happens when signaling stops working and alignment is all that we have left. Until next time, ask yourself this: am I living my values or am I marketing them? Thank you.